Welcome to Storytime with Gena. I will be your Gena this afternoon. To my right is the illustrious Mr. Spangle Bear.
Hello.
And to his right is the ever-present and oftentimes missed Mr. Greg Lins.
Miss Gena, how are you?
He's not
pretty
very
good.
Not very consistent on this show.
Well,
I had some obligations for a while, but
when
I
he's
try
here,
when
he's
I can.
priceless.
Yeah.
We love our Greg Lins. Greg Lins and I both went out and tripped the light fantastic last night.
Yep.
And
That's right.
Spangle Bear, as always, was in bed by 7:30.
I stayed up. I struggled to keep my eyes open past 9:30 last night, and I'm paying for it. I'm so groggy right now.
Well, we are proud of you, I guess.
Totes groggy.
Aw. So we realized that there is a very ever-present gender inequality in that Greg went out and did a bit of a walk of shame this morning and still has a smile on his face and two strong feet.
Were you making love to some monster at the bar last night, or what?
Maybe. I don't know.
Sure.
We still
the
unsure.
details are still very unclear.
Still not sure. I, however, can barely walk because I went out.
What monster were you making love to?
I mean, internally, yeah. But it was funny to me because my lady shoes, my ever schmexy thigh-high boots with the stiletto heels have just fucked up my baby toe.
Aw.
I have like a pinky-sized blister growing on the bottom of my toe, so it is hard to be a lady, you guys.
I know. My wife has the same problem. You know how you know the romance is over in a relationship? When I'm sitting here watching TV the other night and I go, "What is that smell?"
Oh, no.
And she goes, "It's my corn remover."
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
Oh, gosh.
So she's got a nice big corn on her toe.
I guess I'll stop bitching. I don't think I've ever had a corn, just some
It's
gnarly
basically-
blisters.
Yeah, corn basically is just a callus on top of your little toe.
Aw.
So it's nothing, traumatic or anything,
No.
but it is painful.
And
So,
apparently stinky.
well, it smells like, I tasted alcohol for the first time in, like, a long time, accidentally the other day. And the whiskey and ginger ale that I accidentally tasted exactly like corn remover. So,
Yeah, we had a nice talk about different alcohols and what we felt like they tasted like. And Greg mentioned, I believe, was it Scotch?
Scotch and gin.
Yeah, and the only thing that I could think to compare them to was like Aquanet hairspray.
exactly. Yeah, so I was at the Christmas party on Thursday night, and I ordered my customary ginger ale, and they brought a tall, clear tumbler and a smaller tumbler that looked like ginger ale. So I, of course, thought that the small brownish liquid was mine. I took a drink, and I was like, it tasted like corn remover. It tasted like hairspray. It just was very chemically and gross. Turns out it was ginger and Jack.
Ooh.
And
See, I'm more excited. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
like, who the hell would want to drink that? It's so gross. Why do you people
Over
drink?
here, right here.
Why?
I don't drink often, and I don't drink much when I do drink, but I really enjoy a good glass or two of wine. And if I'm going out with the right crowd, I'll throw back a couple whiskeys. It's helps you release your inhibitions, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And socially, I don't know, it makes me a better dancer. How about you, Greg?
I am not a dancer. It's not that I wouldn't. It's just I'm bad. I'm very uncoordinated.
Oh, I can totally fix that.
Oh, yeah.
Take her up on it, Greg.
I'm telling you.
I have inhibitions. I have a lot of inhibitions, but I feel like I have inhibitions because I have reasons for those inhibitions. Like, there's no reason that a 300-pound man should be dancing in the middle of a restaurant.
There is every
Sure there
reason
is.
why a 300-pound man should be dancing on top of a table in a restaurant.
For you, that would be perfect because then you can take Instagram, Snapchat pictures of it and send it out to your friends and laugh at me. But why would I want that for me?
Because you would be dancing and enjoying yourself. When is the last time you've done that?
And then I would wake up and look at the Insta Snap and go,
Oh, no.
Why?
We don't play the regret game.
Why did I do that? What did I do?
It's all about if you had fun. Like have you ever read Tuesdays with Maury?
Yes.
Yeah, the professor in there, like he would go to the students' dance parties and just dance the entire night because he just enjoyed it. He just cut loose.
Well, but I don't enjoy it.
Well, you don't know that because you are inhibited by it.
I used to enjoy dancing with the ladies at prom,
There you go.
but if
so
I'm
is
dancing
prom
at
the last time you danced?
probably.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did we not get you out for your birthday? Oh, that's right. You were in bed by 7.
I believe I did go dancing with Samantha in the beginning of our relationship, but I did not dance. I watched her at 8 Second Saloon dance.
Aw.
I went into Trimmers. What was
Trimmers.
it? Yeah, Trimmers
The
in the back
nightclub.
of 8 Second Saloon, and you couldn't have two more different. It literally is like if Al Sharpton and Duck Dynasty had a house together. That's what 8 Second Saloon is, and Trimmers is like. There's a country bar in the front with line dancing, and then a bar in the back for urban dancing.
Nice. I had no idea, and I've been to 8 Second.
I think
yeah.
it's shut down now because one of the Pacers went in there and had a loaded gun go off, and that was the end of Trimmers.
It was the Jermaine O'Neal years.
Yes.
Aw. I think the only time I've been to the 8 Second Saloon was with maybe Rupert.
Oh, for the fundraiser, yeah.
No, I'm thinking it was a birthday party.
It was some campaign thing.
Yeah. So it seemed like
I
a
think
really
it's
nice
fun.
establishment.
I go there. I just
fucking
went there.
huge.
It
It
is.
is. It's enormous.
They have MMA fights there.
Yeah.
And so went for that. That was it's a really fun time.
See, somebody explained to me this fighting phenomenon. I don't get. I mean, I understand that men needs to channel their aggression somehow, and I don't know. It's just very Roman Colosseum to me. The whole fighting, boxing.
I got into boxing, and I boxed a little bit with Josh Tiernan.
boxed?
Yeah. Yeah, in high school, my mom's boyfriend worked for the Golden Gloves here in Indiana, and I checked all the boxers who went into the ring to make sure their tapes the tape was on their gloves and that they had a cup on.
Right.
And so I would make them punch themselves in the nads before they went in the ring. And I was in high school for like 4 years. I did it for the Golden Gloves. I loved boxing. I had boxing gloves. I started a little fight club amongst my friends.
But you just broke the first rule.
Right.
Yeah.
I was not great at boxing, but you will not get a better workout than boxing.
No way.
It's
yeah.
great. And so I was in shape when I was boxing. So
I mean, it seems very fight or flight. Your adrenaline must be like super high the whole time.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's getting punched in the head.
Yikes.
You know.
See,
So
like the wrestling thing, I can kind of understand a little more because you got to be quick on your feet, quick with your mind. But the boxing, you're just taking blows to the head.
yeah, it's very barbaric.
Yeah.
But there, in every man lies that little piece of like. Literally, Greg is sitting here not trying to hit you over the head with the microphone and drag you to my second bedroom. So I see it.
Is that what? Is
It's
that
so hard to keep it caged.
Right.
is that the inner monologue of the man?
Is that code?
Yeah.
So
Should be.
yeah. It's so hard to keep it caged. It's the size of a Pringles can.
Oh God.
That's a smoke story we won't repeat.
Oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble there. So yeah. So how's life been? Other than everybody's getting ready for the holidays.
It's been good. I mean, it's I'm looking for. I love the holidays, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Everything's been good. I've been thrown into my new job, and I'm really liking it. I don't mind getting up early because as long as I go to bed early, I don't miss the neuroses surrounding getting to bed early. Because when you get up at 4:30 in the morning, I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to
Right.
bed. If I'm not home by 8 o'clock, I'm doomed.
You're exhausted.
I got to go to bed. I got to get in bed at 7:30. I got to get in bed by. If I'm not asleep by 10 o'clock, I'm panicking. Like I did not miss that mentality when I worked normie hours. But the acid reflux has started to come back. Like those are the two worst things about it. Everything else is unbelievable. So I'm having a great time.
Acid reflux is awful.
Awful.
Yeah.
I woke myself up the other morning because I puked in my mouth.
Oh, that's a pleasant experience.
Yeah, you haven't lived till you've woken up Keith Moon style.
Nice. Says the man who hasn't drank alcohol on
Yeah.
purpose
Felt like
in
John-
decades.
I literally woke up at like 1:30 in the morning with, and I was like, oh, I feel like John Bonham.
We've got to get this man some sparkly Keith Moon shoes.
I know.
I just can't add another thing to my repertoire.
Aw.
So, like, I feel like drinking it's a whole thing that you got to learn how to do. You got to know how to drink. You've got to know what to drink. You've got to test out the things that you're going to like. Then you got to know what your limits are. Then you got to find a ride home.
Limits.
Like
It's yeah.
it just, and then you got to gain weight. It's just a whole thing that I don't need to deal with.
Aw.
It's the same with shooting guns. Like, I imagine that shooting guns would be really fun, but I don't need the hassle of trying to figure out a gun, trying to not shoot my face off, trying not to shoot your face off. It's just a whole situation that I don't need to get
Don't
involved
Dick
in.
Cheney me, bro.
Right. Like, I like drugs, same thing. Now, drugs are different because I think I'd really like that.
Yeah, you'd
Like-
probably like it. You'd be like me. You'd like it too much.
Yeah, I would totally do a podcast about quitting pot like 15 years from now. It's just I've ended up in the home.
Right. The
I'd be
unit.
I'd be the first recorded case of marijuana addiction on the planet.
Aw.
My luck, I'd be the first death.
Oh, I doubt it. I think you're a tank. I think you could take it.
See, like I've never had like I've tried it, but like the drug appeal never caught me whatsoever.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a gateway for me.
Uh-uh.
For me, it was more of a recreational therapeutic situation because
Right.
I'm a woman, so we have histrionic tendencies, and
No.
right, and it calmed me down enough
For
to.
those who aren't aware, histrionic means effing crazy.
Yeah, well, in my case, allegedly psychotic.
Allegedly clinically insane.
Right, yeah, but I wear it as a badge of honor.
Exactly.
I wondered what that was taped to your chest.
Exactly. Oh, bright
her
red pea.
It's her crazy badge.
Yes. So Christmas season has definitely restored my faith in humanity this year.
Yes.
So obviously I've had a handful of struggles in the months leading up to this exciting time of year, and it has taken a huge financial strain on the household. The baby daddy has been quite remarkable, especially when I was in the unit, in that he would bring the kids to see me every evening. And
Can I ask, was it the G unit?
it is now. Anyway, he was taking time off work in order to get the kids there to see me in the evening, which hit us financially, and the medical bills associated, which, I have major qualms about it because I didn't have the option to refuse the treatment, but I'm still stuck with the bill.
Right.
So to me, that's an area that needs attention, is in how we treat mental illness in this country, and how we diagnose mental illness, because it's literally a situation where one person decides you're crazy, tells a judge, and the judge either gives a shit or doesn't, and there it is. But as a result of that struggle, we were really worried about being able to provide for the kids for the holidays. And some just amazing and remarkable organizations have come, and individuals have come forward to really make this an amazing Christmas season for my family. So I'm just grateful to the extent that I can barely even put it into words how awesome people have been this year. We actually got adopted as a family, I believe through the United Way. I filled out the form through the United Way, but the organization that picked us up was a church.
Yeah, the way the United Way works is they're sort of a para-organization, and so they send you or connect you with resources from other nonprofits. So they are like a clearinghouse of information, and then they send you to the right place.
Right. So we filled out the application for the Angel Tree, Giving Tree, something along these lines.
It would be Angel Tree. Yeah.
And a local church adopted our family, and I picked up a big old garbage bag full of beautifully wrapped gifts. I have no idea what my kids are getting, but I'm sure they're getting something amazing.
Was it a Methodist church?
I think it was Baptist.
See, us Methodists back in the day.
Yep, the angel tree.
The Angel Tree was a big deal at our church, and so every year, Mom would have us when we'd go to church. We'd go to the tree. It had a Christmas tree, had a little paper angel with all the information of the kids.
Yeah, we picked one of those up at a mall, I believe.
Yeah, and so every year we'd pick out the thing, and it'd say what the kid wanted. If it didn't, then we'd go and choose for the kid. It'd say. Little Johnny, 6 years old, loves Spider-Man, loves trains.
Right.
And then you'd go and get him a toy, and then you'd wrap it, and you'd return it to the Angel Tree. So it was a big deal. I don't know. Did you?
Yeah, I did that every year.
Yeah. So it's always a great part. It was a great lesson on our end of giving.
Yeah. Sharing. So this year has been mainly in receipt, but in addition to that, though, I should also mention Vinny has a what they call him a book buddy through his school, and it's a young high school student who has just really taken an interest in him, and she just seems very sweet. She called me on the phone this morning and mentioned that, Vinny had told her several times that he wanted a bicycle. Well, I had priced bicycles, and we had one in mind that we were going to buy for him this year. But she asked me if I would mind if she went ahead and bought that for him. So I was just touched, like you couldn't believe that this high school student was taking it upon herself to take her funds and buy Vinny, the big thing on his list this year.
That's huge.
Yeah, so
I totally never would have done that.
Exactly.
I was such a little fucker compared to this girl. Literally, this girl, I want to not she's like Pope Francis to me.
Well, it's faith and humanity restored.
Totally, yeah, that is so cool.
That is.
I mean, in my past, like I said, I've done the giving tree also through the mall, but I was probably about her age. Now that I think about it, so I guess it's just a good lesson in the reciprocality of life and giving.
But yeah, like a bag of M&Ms or something small, that'd be nice. But to buy a bicycle,
right?
That is such a big purchase. I don't know how much it is, but
like $40.
Okay,
so it's not like a $300 bicycle,
right? Okay, well, yeah.
Still though, it's an
still
amazing,
a bike.
It's substantial, yeah.
Exactly, it's an amazing thought and a beautiful gesture, and it just really touched my heart that such a young child would be taking such a proactive interest in my son's happiness.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so faith and humanity restored.
Yeah.
Gena's not all doom and gloom this season, this holiday. So,
and you two got presents from me.
Yes, we
Yes.
did.
And I'd just like to say on another podcast that you did not give me anything.
We will be getting you something, crybaby. We just didn't realize today was the day.
I know. I'm just being a dick.
We were both doing the stumble of shame.
No,
Not everybody can go to bed at 7:30, Spangle.
Yeah.
I just like giving gifts.
Not everybody's married and boring, Spangle.
Yeah.
I
Some
know.
of us are married and crazy.
I'm just kidding, by the way.
No, I have a feeling this will be held over our head for quite some time.
That's okay. We'll get him. Why don't we get him alcohol? Why don't we just both show up?
Oh,
with,
that'd be
I'm
hilarious.
getting a box of Franzia.
I have. I re-gift a lot of stuff, and so if you give me, I have re-gifted alcohol before. I like re-gift. Listen, if you get somebody something and it's not totally for them, is it acceptable just to give it to another person?
I think so.
Is re-gifting in your mind?
Depends on the gift. Depends on
Yeah.
the gift. Like if they get you something like say it's something for your house or something like that, you can't re-gift that because if they come over, hey,
It shows up in your sister's house, and then they see it.
Yeah.
Then it's a whole thing.
yeah. However, a book, chocolates, something along those lines.
I didn't re-gift that, by the way.
You bought that?
You totally? Yes, I bought that.
Nice. No, I appreciate it. You
Totally
have so many
look-
books.
Wow, way to throw that right in my face. What an ass.
No, you have so many books. I
Just
just
joking.
assumed.
No.
No, I think
I
I
love it.
was touched by my melting clock. It reminds me very much of the Salvador Dali.
Yes, I got your
Yeah.
clock. But yeah, so I got a few things that they're really nice. I like them. They're just not for me, and they would go perfectly for other people. But I have a little bit of guilt about giving that away. Just,
Yeah.
If it's a shirt that's not your size or something like that. So what's the ruling, Gena Bear?
I'm a fan of the regift because otherwise it becomes useless clutter.
And I think, in a monetary mindset, they're giving you money that you would have spent on the gift.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even a little more than you would have been able to spend.
True.
Right?
True.
All right, good.
No,
Conscious clear.
there's
It's a
nothing. Yeah, you're totally
reallocation
fine.
of resources.
Now, if you were to re-gift a sweater that Samantha hand knitted for you, that would be
Asshole move.
yeah, that would be
Or a locket or something
Right.
that was, personal.
yeah.
I think you'd look pretty with a locket.
Here, honey, why is this engraved to Chris Spangle? Asshole.
Followed by oops.
Oops.
Right. Yeah. No.
Aw. So anyway, I hope the holiday spirit is touching everybody out there. I hope you guys have got plans to spend it with people you love
Or your family.
or your family, whichever one you're blessed with. I actually have plans this year to do a volunteer lunch serving thing, and I believe it is for a elderly home. So that'll be cool.
Cool.
If you have older folks that are in homes, you might try to make a point of going to visit them for the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I know your parents, Greg, are deeply in love.
They are very much.
Or at least in So you guys go over there. You have the traditional family setup. You, your sister, her. I don't think she has kids, right?
She has a stepchild. Yeah.
Okay, so they come on Christmas Day and you all get together? I mean,
Oh,
is
yeah.
it very traditional?
Very traditional. We all do that, and then that's till about 3 or so, and then we go down to my grandma's down in Spencer, Indiana.
Yeah, see, Gena Bear and I come from broken homes.
Oh,
though.
yes.
So what is your Christmas setup like?
This year it's going to be hit and miss because I've had some interesting scenarios with family.
I think you've talked about them, so you can...
So, in years past, like when I was probably 9, 10 years old, there were years when we would go from, we would wake up at home, which would be my mother and a step-parent, and then we would go to the step-grandparents, and then we would go to the grandparents, and then I would go to my father's, and then I would go to my father's mother's. Oh. So I would have like a gamut of holiday visits that I had to make.
It's the same way with me now this year.
And there was even one year I can remember on husband number 3 where in addition to all of that, my dad went out of his way to take me to visit husband number 2 because he felt bad for him having lost his stepchild in the whole ordeal. Ah. So that year I woke up at my mom's, I went to my grandmother's, I went to my father's, we went to my paternal grandmother's, and then from there went to the ex-stepdads, and saw his mother as well. Which, I mean, as somebody who absolutely loves Christmas, you couldn't beat it. But yeah, it takes a lot out of you to do that much. Oh
man, that sounds exhausting.
It does. It becomes exhausting. Like tomorrow we're going down to Vincent's to see my dad's extended family. And then Christmas Eve we're going to my sister's to celebrate Christmas with my mom and my grandma. And then we're going to my dad's house afterwards to celebrate and exchange presents. Then we get up on Christmas morning, and we will go to, where am I? Oh, the in-laws. See, you forget. You got to keep a calendar of all the places you got to go.
Getting married complicates everything.
I know. Yeah.
Unless you're lucky and your in-laws are on the other side of the nation, and then
right.
But then you got to get prepared weeks in advance and send the packages.
And the brother-in-law got divorced, and so you never know if the nieces will be there on Christmas Day or not. And so, and Thanksgiving gets just as complicated. So it just becomes complicated. It's not bad because you still get to see everybody. You get like twice the presents.
Yeah.
So that's good. But it's, you're constantly kind of running around. And so in your situation, you kind of get to just show up and relax.
Yeah.
Whereas you're trying to make time.
Yep.
Now, and it kind of erases that for me. And I don't know about you, but when my parents got divorced, that was the hardest part. So the loss of the family traditions in the holiday season was the part that I mourned for. My parents being apart was good because they didn't particularly like each other that much. But the loss of probably my happiest memory in life is just being around 8 or 9, lying in front of the fire with the Christmas tree lit, watching Rudolph with my family, and just enjoying that picture.
See,
that's my happy place in life.
You and I have such different scenarios with divorce.
Right.
Because you were how old when your parents were divorced?
15.
You were 15.
So we had history.
Right. In my situation, my parents were divorced, like lock, stock, and barrel, legally divorced by the time that I was 7 months old.
Gotcha.
So my parents weren't in the same room able to enjoy each other's company or even tolerate each other's company until I graduated from high school.
Wow. Okay.
It was my high school graduation. My mom and dad were able to tolerate one another's company. By the time that I had a big fancy wedding, they were able to, spend time with one another. But, my first stepdad, my mother, I was probably 2 years old when they got married, or at least when they got together. And I was probably 6 or 7 when they got divorced. So there was a family unit that I grew accustomed to. And then the next stepdad, I was probably 8 when they got married, maybe 10 when they got divorced. So I lost an extended family through that process. And then her fourth marriage was back to stepdad number 1, so marriage number 2. So it was like I regained an extended family that I had lost. But the time that we had lost there, that man had grown to love me from the age of 2 to 5. And suddenly I was an 11-year-old. And
yeah.
And it's a completely different, beast where you expect the idiosyncrasies of a 5-year-old, and you've got a stubborn, if you will, hard-headed 11-year-old. You can imagine me
Hey,
at
Gena.
11. Yeah.
Cynical,
Yeah.
worldly.
And he was incredibly cynical himself, so the two of us butted heads quite a bit. I can remember saying some nasty things to him and him saying some nasty things to me, but we still had a great deal of love for each other. But yeah, the fifth husband came along when I was on the other side of the nation. I was out in California, so I didn't really get a chance to bond with him much until we moved back here.
Those were the corporate espionage years, right?
Well, corporate espionage is a fancy word for...
A strong word, yeah.
Yeah, it's a strongly worded statement for I accidentally leaked when a couple of meetings were happening.
Potato, potato.
Oh,
Potato.
Gena.
Yeah.
Leaving a trail of Gena-ness everywhere.
No harm, no foul, I think. It was balanced. It was fair and balanced coverage.
Yeah.
So
No
you,
spin zone.
So you, I mean, do you have in that situation where you've got that transient family or transient, not like your hobos or anything, but like transitional families? Like, do you have the fondest of holiday memories that like Greg and I probably have?
Well, my mother is like Christmas to my mom is like an event that you couldn't fathom. Like most people couldn't fathom. My mom never was a wealthy person. She never had a great deal of money, but when it came to Christmas, she busted her ass to make sure that it was a special, magical, wonderful day.
Right.
I know the year that the Cabbage Patch Dolls came out. Do you guys remember the Cabbage Patch Dolls being a huge deal?
Yeah.
My mother
I'm sorry,
camped.
we have penises.
Right. Well, my mother was one of the people camping on the sidewalks to make sure that I got one.
Wow.
And then that was the last like big ticket item where I wanted something popular because for the most part I'm a little weird. But it was just always packages and packages and packages. And when we would get siblings, like step siblings would come into the family unit, it was just more Christmas for her. My mom's very much into the commercial side of Christmas. In fact, my whole maternal family is. Every year they don antlers and go to the mall, and my Thanksgiving is Christmas. So after my family eats Thanksgiving dinner, the women get around the table, they drink wine, they sing, they cut out coupons, they get together a game plan. Some of them go out from there and they shop until they drop the following day for Black Friday.
Yeah, see, that's why I love the Black Friday concept, because you do have that family atmosphere, the aspect of it, but
except for the people who are like cutting each other.
Yeah, but I don't like the
stampeding.
moving into Thursday thing. I'm against that.
Yeah, me too. And so it's to the point where the commercialism of Christmas has kind of taken over the gratitude of Thanksgiving in my family. So I have a hard time as enlighten's a fancy word, but like a peace-loving hippie person, it's difficult for me to relate to my family any longer on the holidays because it's all so commercial that we've lost the togetherness and the balance of the love that the holidays are supposed to represent.
Well, but let me ask you this. To me, commercialism or materialism, like if you gave me a present, and
big if,
because you two really let me down today. No, but if you got me a gift, and like I looked at it and I said, "Well, that's fine. Thanks for the iPod Nano, but I really didn't want blue."
Right.
And I'm not. I'm going to think less of you now. But to me, like the concept of your aunts and all the family members getting together, going shopping as an activity and kind of bonding around that activity, like that activity of shopping and the purchasing of things is the social lubrication of the holiday season for your family.
Right.
So like from my perspective, it doesn't sound like it's like, what do you mean when it has taken over the commercialism? Like, is it more like the first thing, or
it's like we get together for Thanksgiving, an uncle who is married into the family, who is from a Christian background, says a prayer. We all eat. The guys go watch football. The women take over the table. And if you were not part of that generation, because there happened to be 8 of them, it's my grandmother, her sister, and their 6 kids, but that are all women. There's a very matriarchal situation in my family.
We figured that your household was a gynocracy.
Yes, a huge gynocracy. So in the event that you're not part of that generation, you are degraded almost. I mean, they are the reindeer and you get called an elf, which means that if you go out with them, you're carrying their bags. I mean, you become a servant. So it's family bonding for that generation of cousins.
I gotcha.
But everyone else is kind of fucked. You're kind of pushed to the wayside.
If you don't enjoy that and embrace it, then
And even in years when I had a much larger budget to go out and do the Black Friday thing, it's still, to me, it was like you would pick an ad or two where you knew there was something that you wanted and you would hit those spots, but you didn't make like a competitive sport out of it. And that is what it seems to have disintegrated down to, is like a competitive shopping experience. And it borders on madness. Like, truly it does. And when Thanksgiving is no longer about giving thanks, it is now about the pregame plan for the Black Friday event and then the holiday that follows. It's kind of, there's a sadness to it in that it's not family togetherness any longer so much as exclusivity and materialism, which is the opposite to me of gratitude. So I love my family and I support them fully. I mean, I try very hard to support them fully and whatever it is that makes them happy. But I can't participate and find happiness in what it is that they're doing. So it makes kind of a distance that takes away from what the holidays, to me, should be about. The family togetherness, the love, and what have you.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so the commercialization has taken over, and now it's almost an afterthought that you're together as a family.
Right, yeah. And it's a brief moment. Like, there isn't a table big enough for my mother, her cousins, their children, and their children. I mean, it's to the point where my mother is a grandmother, and many of her cousins are grandmothers, and there is no arena within our family that's large enough for everybody to get around the table. And at that, it's like if you're not a small child who can go back into a toy room and you're not into football, you're boned.
Yeah, see, like the family that we're visiting tomorrow, it will be about a dozen people. And it'll be just down the road from my great-grandmother's house. And it's bittersweet because I love seeing this family. I love seeing, the family that I've got left. I love going to this place because it has great holiday memories for me, but it's also holiday memories because when my great-grandmother was alive and she wasn't affected by Alzheimer's, back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, you'd go and it'd be 50 people in her in her small house, everybody crammed in, all the family members, and my grandmother now lives in Florida. Another aunt, her sister, that's a whole situation. We all have that, right? You've got everybody in the family, you've got that one thing that's a whole situation. And then you have one of the sisters there who's the sweetest lady on the planet. And then from there, everybody just kind of separates out. And so you try to get everybody together, and over time, there's the situations that pop up, family members pass on. And so what was 50 to 70 people, and you can't get everybody around a table, like there is definitely that table, but there's a million different little tables everywhere else.
Right.
It's that, like, I miss that big thing that took place twice a year for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it was just so great. And it's great to go back and watch the videos of it. But one of the saddest parts about the holiday season is that over time, 20 years, 30 years later, those don't exist. Like my niece, she won't experience that just because I don't have kids. My brother isn't married and doesn't have kids. So the family is kind of small. Everybody's got their, our parents are divorced. So she'll have great experiences, and she's going to have a lot of great Christmases.
But they won't be yours.
But they won't be mine, And it won't affect her because she won't have a cognizance of that great big
It's not something she's lost.
Exactly right.
It's just something she won't experience.
Yeah, and so it's just that's one of the bummers about getting older is just that things like that change. And so your holiday traditions over time become different.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's not that I don't love the Christmas season now, and and maybe it's just being older. Maybe it's just the fact that we're in our 30s, and I think you're in your 30s.
I'm 28.
You're 28.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised every time you tell me that.
Yeah. Being in our 30s or around 30, things are different than when you were 10.
Right.
You know? And it wasn't about that. Couldn't tell you what I got for Christmas. We got a lot of presents.
Oh, I could. I could go down the list.
Yeah. Like
every awesome gift.
Like the Nintendo and the Ghostbusters set were like the two standouts. But for me, the family interaction and the family togetherness is what I loved.
Right.
And the warmth. And I don't think that it's not that we don't have that now. It's just that now I have concerns. Like, I was carefree as a kid.
Yeah.
You're laying by the fire watching Charlie Brown. You don't give a shit about anything other than anticipation for what you're going to get.
What
for
is
Christmas.
in those packages? What is in those packages?
Right. Now you've got to worry. Gina has to worry about what am I getting the kids? What's going in their stocking? I got to wrap them. When am I going to find the time to do this? Where are we going to do things?
I find joy in that, in
Really?
the preparation of Christmas for my children, which is something I definitely got from my mother. My mother and her contract with Santa Claus is phenomenal.
Right.
Like my mom's, the way my mom worked out Santa was amazing. It was a situation where you would go to bed at like 8 or 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock if you were lucky. Mom wouldn't go to bed until 1 or 2, and when you woke up, the tree was sparkling, and you literally could not see carpet because there were just so many packages.
That's how my dad is. My dad was the giver, and still is.
Yeah.
So
I think though that's just life. I mean, and you can never really go back home.
Oh yeah.
It's that nostalgia of the way you remember it and not having all the obligations of adulthood on you. But you want it's great though. I mean, you want to provide that and recreate that for your children if if and when you have them, and your nieces and nephews and everything. But it's almost impossible to ever go back, and it's futile to try to.
And I think in the trying is you end up creating a scenario where 30 years from now, Lorelai will go, "It's never like it was when I was 8,"
Yeah.
So
you set her up for failure.
Right. Well, because Vinny 30 to 25 years from now will be sitting on a podcast.
Right.
Most assuredly, he will be doing a podcast. I promise you that child will have his voice heard.
Right.
And be saying it just was not as cool as the year that I got a bike.
Right.
Yeah. Is she going to bring the bike to him?
We discussed it, and she was talking about like leaving it on the doorstep, ringing the doorbell, and having him answer the door. But she was wanting to do it on like a Tuesday, and I was like, well, why don't? I mean, it's like that's an awesome idea, but I would really like it to be something on Christmas morning.
Right.
So I think she's going to get it to us. We're going to try to find a way to hide it in that tiny apartment, which I don't know how we're going to pull that off.
Well, is it a situation where you could leave it here? And
yeah. As long as I could get here Christmas Eve to pick it up.
Yeah. No, we'll it'd have to be later. We'll talk afterwards.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to leave it here.
The Spangles residence will be unlocked on Christmas Eve.
Right. So parents, spoiler alert.
Right.
Meaning, you know what I mean?
Earmuffs, kids.
So you've been warned. You have a very different style of I don't want to say parenting, because you're a great parent, and so is your husband.
I try.
You let your kids curse.
I let Vinny. I give Vinny full use of his language, although
right.
I'm gonna have to rein him in somehow because
it's starting to get out of control.
I mean, it's funny.
Like when he calls his teacher a cunt, it's time to.
No, he wouldn't go that far. But I mean, there are times. I don't know. Right now, it's mostly funny, but I know that he has the capability of just being utterly disrespectful. So I'm gonna have to find a balance there.
Right. So, SC. How do you guys deal with that situation?
SC is a god in our house.
Okay.
I mean, not quite, but yeah, that's definitely very real. Where it becomes a problem is SC is supposed to provide everything in his mind. He's like, Mommy, I know we don't have a whole lot of money, so I'm going to ask, Santa for this. And Mommy, I don't have a whole lot of money, so don't worry. Santa's going to bring me this.
He's going to bring the toilet paper. Santa's bringing a pizza on December 23rd.
No. Santa was supposed to bring a Wii U. Santa, I'm talking like $300 and $400 things that he knows are out of our budget. It's no big deal because Santa's going to bring it for me.
I gotcha.
This year, I guess we're kind of lucky because what Santa was supposed to bring was a bicycle, and we found one for $40. And then we found this. He had a friend at school that wanted to provide that, so that was a total blessing. But there have been years when I've been like, how the fuck am I going to buy a Wii U?
Right,
Yeah.
but as a parent, like,
and even then, I had a friend who contributed $50 to help us on that year.
so as a parent, you totally want to give that to your kids.
Oh, yeah.
But as kids, don't you remember just being flat out disappointed that you didn't get certain items?
No, that's the thing. My mom never let me be disappointed.
Hmm.
And that's where it's big shoes to fill because my mom did such an incredible job at making sure that Santa was that magical, all providing being that like Santa's legendary in my mom's house. Santa has his
Right.
own wrapping paper. Like there are packages under the tree that are there, from the time that she buys them, and those are in mommy wrapping paper. And then there were the Santa gifts, which all had Santa paper.
Sure.
And
Well, that's like a necessity. You got to do that to, for that situation.
This sounds like the 1950s South. Separate things for separate people.
Right.
But Greg, did you have the things that you really wanted as a kid that you just didn't get for Christmas and you were disappointed in that asshole Santa?
No, like, I was kind of weird. I still am a little bit. I always had a really hard time putting together a list. Like,
Really?
really did. Like,
Because you were just satisfied.
yeah, like I didn't really. I mean, I loved sports. Played all of them. Like, so for me, I was happy as hell if I could just go outside on Christmas Day and shoot basketball.
Really?
Nice.
Like that was
I
my
got a
thing.
basketball goal for Christmas
Yeah.
one year.
And ours was just a neighborhood one, but like that's what I enjoyed more. Like I didn't play a lot of games,
Right.
or anything. I never really wanted. I didn't even think about it until like late in high school, but never had the game system. Had no idea my dad didn't want me to have it. I just never really wanted one.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was a gamer, man.
I
might have been 6 when I got that Nintendo.
We are
Duck
Libertarians.
Hunt.
This week we talked about the pussification of America, and I briefly alluded to it, but I fully blame video games for the
Yeah.
downward spiral of the American male.
Yeah.
Well, but at the same time, there are some video games that have created such violent and hostile mindsets in the minds of some young people.
But
that-
I think
But
that's part of the pussification.
But
of
that's
men.
part of the problem is that people are no longer people that you relate to. They're objects that you interact with.
right.
You
but-
are an object that I can either A, kill, B, F in an alley, or, it's you objectify people
Yeah.
as opposed to seeing them as a human being.
I would say the objectification for sure, but not necessarily the pussification, because I don't think you're more pussified if you're willing to, rape a hooker and beat her up and take your money back.
I think it makes you less engaged with the real world.
I
And I
agree.
think a male or even a female, I think as a citizen, as a human being, you must be engaged in the world around you, and you must have ambition. And when your ambition is to get home so you can beat the next level, I think that's a problem.
Right.
So that's where I think it falls into that.
I have a hard time in the socially. I don't like to be the instigator of a conversation. So I have a difficult time approaching people, walking up and saying, "Hi, how are you?" and not being awkward about it. Does that make
Right.
sense? And that is one thing that, I don't church. That's a well-known fact. I don't church.
You're not
I
a
don't church.
Not a church person. Not even on the Christmas Eve.
Well,
Not even on the Easter.
I have on occasion done the Christmas thing, but it's always been with a boyfriend or a fiance
Gotcha.
or some situation like that. One Christmas I remember going to visit. I was with a guy and we went up to visit his dad and we went to their church, and the strangest part of the whole ceremony to me was the part where the pastor preacher, I don't know what do Lutherans have. Anyway,
yeah.
the guy in
pastor.
charge, the guy at
a
the
rector.
pulpit. Yes.
Damn near killed her.
Says to stand up and turn around and say hello to some strange person. And I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's always the awkward part of, like, shake hands, welcome each other.
Give him a hug. And I'm
Right.
like, that's not going to happen, homie. Like, I don't know how to
One
break
old
this
creepy
down for
dude
you.
who seeks Gena out like a GPS.
Right. But then there were
Sorry
other,
about that.
There were other times when I went to like candlelight services with I had another boyfriend where we would go to the Christmas Eve service, and it would be you'd be silent and you're supposed to be silent until like the next day, which obviously is not going to happen. Which is interesting because that boyfriend was deaf and I still couldn't keep my mouth shut. But
Is that code?
Can you sign?
yeah.
No way.
I wish I was proficient enough to interpret, but because I learned through communicating with him and not through books, I don't have technical jargon. Like I couldn't tell you tiger from lion, but I could finger spell both of them. I'm
That was finger
conversation.
spell, Greg.
Yes, sorry.
I'm conversational in sign language, but only because I started dating a guy who was deaf. So
That is an interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well, it led to some funny things. If at home audience, so if you put your fingers together and you take your hand from your mouth to your ear, that is home. Whereas if you put the letter X, which is your index finger in like a crook, and you take that from your mouth to your ear, that is sex. And there was one time when I was trying to ask him if he had done his homework, and I ended up asking him in study hall if he had done his sex work. And if you've ever heard a deaf person laugh, it is a very, very loud sound. And so here we are in the middle of study hall, and I asked him if he had done his sex work, and he lost his shit. And the way that the school was set up, the study hall was out in the open with all the classrooms around, and he was like, just dying laughing. And I'm turning bright red.
The best part is no one can be offended because they can't hear it.
I mean, they can. The deaf community is a tight-knit community. I mean, the deaf community is amazing. But if anything, I provide entertainment value to my deaf friends because when we are in conversation and I fuck things up, it is legendary funny.
Gena, I have to tell you, you're a professional broadcaster because you kept it together and kept the show going while Greg and I started crying.
I can't believe you did that. I would do something like that. Like, and Gena, you know, the only thing she really does is make fun of Japanese, how they talk.
I don't make fun of the Japanese. I enjoy a
mimic.
jovialism with them.
It's okay. Some of my best friends are deaf.
That's the whole time I'm thinking,
I
like,
hate you guys.
Daniel just goes there. I look at her. He goes,
Sorry. I'd like to.
no, apologize to the deaf people.
Hi, my name is.
No,
Chris
you
Faye.
can't do it that way. You got to sign.
Oh,
They're not going to be able to hear it.
there you go. Take that. All right. How did that work?
But as far as like communities go, like
That's a real hooker.
I hate you guys.
Sorry, Gena. Sorry,
okay.
Gena.
Strong left hook on that one.
I shouldn't have brought this conversation
No,
up.
it's fine. But as far as like seriously, as an informational tidbit, as far as communities go and like community organizing or what have you, the deaf community is fucking tight. Like
Yeah.
if you can approach a deaf person and have have a conversation with them and ask them, you know, do you know X person?
So
they
racist.
fucking know them. No,
So racist. Why does it got to be deaf conversation?
well, you know what I'm saying. If you could have a conversation with someone who can't hear you, but be it through sign or the cell phones are great for it now. Some of them used to carry around pads of paper so that they could communicate the basics.
What do you mean by them?
I mean, people that can't hear. I mean, it's not a fucking generalization. It's a description.
Such a stereotype.
God.
Such a stereotype that the deaf can't hear, you asshole.
Exactly. So you guys suck.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, God.
We're so bad.
Oh,
It's so good. That's just wild, though. You dated a deaf guy. That would be
That's
interesting. I don't know that I could date a deaf girl.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Although it was interesting, we ended up breaking up because his mom didn't think we should be together. So it was kind of like his mom broke up with me.
Oh,
Which,
wow.
It's kind of an interesting scenario because he couldn't interact with the world at large.
Uh-huh.
So much of his experience was through her filter, which led him. I mean, he was a man of incredible. I guess at the time, a boy of great character. But much of his character, like my rebellious tendencies. Imagine if I didn't have the ability to interact with the world at large, and what was law was what my mother communicated to me. And that was kind of his mindset. So that's much of why we didn't work out. That and he suffered a tragedy, and when he did, he had some anger and hostility issues that he focused on me. And me being small, I was not in a position for a large deaf man to be hovering over me, screaming and wailing. That just wasn't going to happen. But other than that, we had a great friendship. Interestingly, though, all right, I'm going to put this out there because we always get scandalous on this show. The day that he told me that his mom decided we couldn't see each other anymore was the day that I quit seeing him and started a relationship with someone else the exact same day. Like, I did not even have a rebound period.
So
Wow.
mom's suspicions were right on.
Well, no, I mean, in the event that we could have had a relationship, we would have. But instead, I went to see a friend, if you will, to to, discuss what had happened, and that guy had just been waiting for me to be single. So, and
have you ever been single for an extended period of time since you've been like over, say, 16?
No, I haven't.
Never.
So I dated the deaf guy when I was 15 to 16.
Uh-huh.
That evening, I had a new boyfriend. We were together for 4 years.
Uh-huh.
At the tail end of that relationship, we were friends living together, kind of like me and Tony, or me and Baby Daddy are now, friends living together.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony showed up. Baby Daddy showed up. And so Baby Daddy and I have been together for 10 years. Like, I don't, it's not that I plan it. It's not that I certainly wouldn't intentionally be with two guys at the same time. Mm-hmm. But as one relationship begins to dwindle, some other opportunity shows up immediately.
Uh-huh.
And it would be a lie if I said I was easy to get along with, but I don't push people out of my life intentionally. So when I find myself single and someone is interested in sharing some sort of relationship or closeness or affection with me, I'm gonna do that. That's gonna happen. If it feels right, if it makes sense.
Have you given much reflection on this or really examined it before?
Yeah, actually, especially recently. So the guy that I was with for 4 years, we were really good friends. There was just a lot of misplaced anger towards the world that we pushed onto each other,
mm-hmm.
right? And so at the end of our relationship, upon its demise, we were both so angry, not really at each other, but at our situation, that we just ceased all communication, period. So this is a man with whom I lived for years. We shared a twin bed. So 2 grown people sharing one twin bed. And at the end of that relationship, we ceased to speak to one another for 10 fucking years.
Wow.
And I broke that silence this year. I sent him a Christmas card.
It's not like it's a big
He's
feat,
gonna
though.
hate me.
It's funny, you have...
It's not like a big feat, though. You just curled up at the end of the bed like a cat.
No, we spooned. We spooned really well.
Yeah.
We are incredible sets of spoons. He wasn't a big guy, and I'm obviously not a big girl, but yeah, we
Yes, you are. You're a big girl.
we shared the shit out of that twin bed. So.
But you've never been like... Because usually, like, your formative years, like, you know,
Yeah.
16 up to about 25, 26, when you
Yeah.
start to kind of figure out who you are. You
had
were
no time
never
to
single
myself.
once. And it's not so much that what the dynamics of the relationships, but you've never just period.
Mm-mm.
I would say, though, that you have lived single
Oh, absolutely.
the last few years. Though.
Yeah, no, and that's where I've been really blessed. So when I left the Baby Daddy to have me time, if you will, once I got so frustrated with what I felt were his priorities being out of balance with my own, I was really blessed because I got to, I'm the queen of sofa surfing. At least that's what they tell me.
Is that code?
No, not in this case. But I was in college and I had friends that I had gone to elementary school with, whom I had reunited with at the university. And so one of them was really gracious and let me move in on his sofa. And, I would have my time with Vinny because Vinny was the only kid I had at the time. And I could have my evenings. We would go out. I wasn't as focused on schoolwork as I should have been. But as we're discussing now, it was my first time experiencing what it was like to be an adult without having so many responsibilities as far as like raising a family, being a homemaker, and sometimes
In a relationship.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
even though it's good, it's also an obligation.
Right. And I was preoccupied with other things and other situations, which obviously served to my detriment. Speaking of the unit. But, it was an interesting phenomenon for someone who had never... Like, I might have considered myself single for about 2 months at the end of that 4-year relationship prior to Baby Daddy. But even then, this is terrible. That young man joined a band, and we were friends, but we were cohabitating. Most of the time I slept on the sofa, he slept in the bed, or vice versa. On the weekend that Tony first made an appearance, which was my 21st birthday, that young man had flown to San Francisco because he had a gig with the band that he had just joined. And Tony had come over because he wanted to take me out for my 21st birthday. Nothing happened while the guy was gone. But when the guy came back and he had brought me a flower from San Francisco, which was about the sweetest thing ever, and he saw Tony sitting on the sofa rubbing my feet watching The Simpsons.
Oh, boy.
He kind of lost his shit.
Yeah, I totally would.
Yeah, well...
I had spent money on a flower, damn it.
No, he picked the flower, which was even better for me.
Oh.
I mean, it was just very bittersweet because the last thing he said to me was, don't marry the first pretty boy that comes along, and buddy, did I ever.
And let me tell you, Tony is a looker.
He's a good-looking man.
He's not bad.
Tony cleans up pretty. Tony's a good guy. He's a good-looking guy.
He's no Greg Lenz.
Oh.
No, well, who is, though?
All right.
Yeah, right.
So, anyway, Tony and I didn't really start a relationship until... not weeks, but days later. But it was in the middle of all the hostility that guy was feeling about the demise of the relationship. And he had to feel bitter and he had to feel betrayed. But the fact of the matter is, there had been so much anger in our relationship that I had said to him months prior is that we are dating. We are no longer engaged. We are dating because the way that we treat each other is not healthy. And I didn't want to find myself in a situation like my mother's where I was falling into marriage after marriage after marriage. And I mean, to a certain extent, I am a, what do you call that? A serial monogamist.
Yeah.
When I fall in love with a guy, I'm in love with that guy until that guy fucks up to the point that it's irrevocable. And that's just the way that I roll because I'm extremely faithful. I'm extremely dedicated. If it's someone who can be patient and, exhibit all the qualities that we discussed, was it on Wall that we discussed that?
Yeah. We've done so much podcasting today.
I know.
We're going on our 4th hour here.
We really are. I mean, for a lazy group of people with no work ethic, we're sitting here busting ass on a Saturday.
Good day. So I would say that you're still faithful. And I don't know that your current baby daddy screwed up royally. I just think it just over time you two just stopped having romantic feelings for each other.
The straw that broke the camel's back in that situation was that he prioritized work over my child.
Right.
And the moment that happened, I left. That was in October of 2011-ish. The moment that Vinny had a birthday party at school scheduled. Baby daddy had picked out the date that would happen. We had all of these plans, and it was a big deal to Vinny that we be there as his family to help him celebrate. And baby daddy was working for Apple, and a new iPhone was released, and he did not make it. And the moment that happened, that in addition to the breakdown in the relationship, the lack of communication, that was the straw for me that said I have to make this break. Because when you can't prioritize your children over your work life, we have two different sets of priorities.
But if he would have gotten fired had he not left? Or, I mean, what was the situation? To miss a school play versus getting fired.
It wasn't a school play. It was Vinny's birthday.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Okay,
yeah, so,
I missed that part. But that's kind of
he picked the date,
right?
So he could have used just a little bit of foresight and said, "Hey, can we reschedule this? This is happening."
There's been more divorces over these damn iPhones.
I know.
I swear to God.
Facebook, iPhones.
Still
it's
not
the
a
devil.
Divorce, but we are looking into an annulment. But again, it's for
Galt
the kids.
was right. Galt was right.
So I'm still in a situation where I'm dedicated to my family, and I'm dedicated to even to some extent to baby daddy's happiness.
But let me ask you this: let me ask an awkward rebuttal question. So the logic here is that he put work before the family, meaning he had to work, and he missed the birthday. So you leave, and the family essentially dissolves. I know it's more complicated, and that's a very simplistic thing to say.
I mean, there were things that led up to it.
Sure. So, and I think it should be clarified that you didn't leave your kids.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Because
I still had Vinny, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on most weekends.
Right. And now you're all together at this point. And
yeah.
you and my whole point for bringing this up is that even though the romantic relationship has dissolved, and you've talked about annulment, and has for years, you two are very close. You're very loyal to him. You really are without I think seeing it from an outsider's perspective, you have a marriage that most people have.
Right.
You just don't want to call it that anymore. Like
Right.
most people that I know that at this stage, after 10 years and kids and hardship, they're just living together. The
Right.
difference between you and them is that you don't hate each other.
Not a bit. No,
know?
there's no hatred there. I don't have time for hatred. And I should say, another thing that led up to it that was another just major straw is that I had a point of depression at one point where I felt such severe feelings of worthlessness that there was one day that I would say I wasn't truly suicidal, but I was definitely exhibiting suicidal tendencies. And he came home from work and saw me in that state, and I looked at him and I told him that I literally couldn't do it anymore and that I was contemplating suicide. And he looked at me and said, "Well, I am late for work," and turned around and walked out the door.
Ouch.
And that was 2 months prior to him missing. That was in August, and then in October he missed Vinny's birthday, and that was when I severed, and I went out to live on my own and experience life, independent of him.
I'm gonna guess that's one that sticks with the wife.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one that doesn't
Hey,
go
honey,
away.
I'm gonna slip my wrist. I'm real sorry. Got to get back to work. My lunch hour's up.
Listen, people need the IMAX.
Exactly.
I must go.
Exactly.
I wonder what the Gena Martinez would be if she had, at 18, you graduate high school, you go to college, you never get in a relationship, you pursue your career, don't have kids. Do you ever think
I'd be a
about that?
mogul. Yeah, I would probably, like, this year, instead of telling you how touched I am and how I have faith in humanity once again, I would probably be retelling the Christmas Carol. I would be Scrooge. I would be
Here's your turkey, kid.
right, pissing on Tiny Tim, but I'd have a whole
Literally.
lot
Or
of
I
money.
mean, like, what I see is you're such an advocate. You know what I mean?
Well, at the time, though, I wasn't. At the time, I went out and I followed the money wherever the money went. I got involved in a law firm. I got involved in an aerospace organization. I went and did things without thinking because they benefited me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't give thought and I wasn't conscious of the impact on the community and the world at large.
But I think you still would have. So I think that's probably an internal
I mean,
part
it's
of
part
you.
of my character, but I think that by the time I got there, I would have been so money-driven that I would not have given a shit. I would have been so attached to my lifestyle and the luxuries that I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to give those up for the benefit of humanity.
Well, one thing that you mentioned outside when, that I wanted to bring up, and this is a good transition, you mentioned a lack of ambition at this point.
Well, a lack of direction.
A lack of
I am
direction,
very
yeah.
ambitious, and I'm a very hard worker. I'm just in a situation where my baby comes first, my latchling, if you will. I've got to make him my number one priority, and there is still time that I can get out of the house and I can do things. I'm just not sure the best route to go. And it's not that I'm not willing to do the little jobs or I'm not willing to do the small things that'll make a small impact. It's just that I would like to make the smartest decision possible, and I haven't found the direction to go in yet.
Yeah, because it's, when I first met you, when you were running for office, I mean, you were like Hillary Clinton.
Ish.
Yeah, I mean, you were like, it was like meeting somebody who's like, listen, I'm pregnant, I don't care, I'm taking on the world, I'm going to do this.
Well,
And-
I said I would run, and then I got pregnant, so it wasn't
Yeah,
like
no,
I
I
did
know.
that on purpose.
Listen, that happens to
I'm
every
just not a quitter.
libertarian. Happens to everyone who runs for office as soon as they declare.
I remember when
Not
Jeremiah
pregnant.
got pregnant. That was a bitch.
Yeah, Jeremiah Morrow. When he got pregnant, it was so sad. But, yeah, I think over the last year, I think it's been such a tough year that I've seen a little bit of that diminish. And I think you're going to get it back. You're only 32, and everybody has
31, thank you.
31. 30, she's 29
Right?
for the next 10 years.
Exactly.
And I
Well,
think...
I have the luxury of looking 12, too.
Right, yes. When Gena and I go out places, they're like, what is that 22-year-old doing with that 12-year-old?
Right?
In her Ninja Turtles costume.
Exactly. Which we have done in public.
You're not helping your case here.
I know.
But I do think that you will get that back at some point, but right now you're just sort of in survival mode, with money, with kids, with relationships, with housing, with trying to figure out what you're going to do for a job. Like, when you have those kind of concerns, I've been there, and when you have those kind of concerns, it's just sort of your ambition gets diminished and you start wanting to survive.
Yeah. Well, and I'm still ambitious. It's just that my contribution isn't as evident as other people's. Like, you go to the office and there your ambition is achieved. Like, you can work your way up the ladder. You can do things where your ambition, your goals are met, and it's evident to those around you that you are working up a ladder. In my situation, I stay home and I don't pander for money, and I don't let situations like I don't let things that wouldn't ordinarily make my decisions for me. In other words, I'm not manipulated by situations. I have the luxury of not being manipulated by situations that other people might have to succumb to.
Sure.
So to me, that took a great deal of ambition to get to a point where I could sort of rid myself of material attachments and be like, okay, here's you guys, when I was 18, 19, when I did graduate high school, when I got on the corporate ladder, when I went for the gravy train, I had a $7,000 credit line at Target. I was in Target 4 times a week. I was buying things I did not need. I wasn't saving. I was spending. And I was spending a lot.
Right.
And I had material attachment issues like you would not believe. And like I'm telling you, my mom and SC, that materialism was part of my core. And I have had to completely shed myself and rid myself of that. And it's to my benefit. And I did so much purchasing and collecting back then that I'm still digging my way out of almost a historical hoard of memories and things that I need to detach myself from. But it's enlightening as I go through these boxes and I see the things from the past and I remember things that I wasn't able to experience at the time. Have you ever heard of be in the moment?
Mm-hmm.
I was never, ever, ever in the moment. I was living from moment to moment on a survival mode.
Yeah, I went through a very similar experience too. I mean, in my teens and 20s, I mean, my book collection is enormous, and I sold half of my books to half-price books in 2007 at the top of the book market, right before the crash.
The big book crash of 2007.
Yep. Right.
Nailed it.
And, when I...
Fucking Napster.
Right, I was living at home. It was cool to live at home, and then it became uncool to live at home.
Suddenly.
And then, it's like, when are you getting out of here? And I was working 3 jobs. I was working all the time. I wasn't making a lot of money. I mean, but I had no overhead. I had no overhead whatsoever, and all that money went out. And then just sort of, I went to work at the radio station, and I was making $17,000 a year, and I took a huge, huge pay cut to go work at the radio station and work where I did. And all of a sudden, now I've got to survive in 2007 and 2008, and I just started selling everything. And, when I moved in with Samantha, and I left my mom's basement for Samantha's house, I sold, threw away, donated almost every possession that I had, with the exception of a lot of books, my DVDs, and 2 tubs of just stuff that I wanted to save, keepsakes. And then it was the best feeling in the world. It's when you aren't attached to material goods anymore,
right.
then it's just so much better. You're not, and it's not even like being attached to your computer or whatever. It's like being attached to this 50-cent little piece of plastic that somebody gave you in high school that you want to save because there's a small memory attached to that. Well, you know what? You don't need that memory. It just clogs up your mental RAM. It clogs up your house. It's you don't need this little trinket of a memory anymore, It's it's just time to move forward in your life to a different chapter. And I think the breaking of that connection to materialistic objects and to the memories attached to them really helped me a lot. Yeah. And I moved into a situation with Samantha where I moved into Samantha's house with my clothes and my computer, a computer bag of stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing a tremendous purge because, but I am finding as I go through things that there are good times that I missed. I told you guys today, I opened up my heart about the last guy I was engaged to before the baby daddy, and in that relationship, I had nothing in the immediate thereafter and up until recently, I had nothing but negative memories of that entire exchange. Just because he was out in the world and he was so frustrated with discovering the world as it was. He had kind of had an idyllic childhood. He wasn't prepared to go to work for a major corporation and be treated as a number instead of an individual. And so when he came home very angry and frustrated, and I was there. So his anger and his frustration would be directed at me, and at least that's how I remembered the majority of our interaction. Whereas, having my mother lost her house, and I had a great deal of things in storage there that I was able to go through, and they're in my house now. As I'm going through, I'm reclaiming positive memories of that time. That it's almost healing in a way, because at one point I can remember, why did I stick around for so long? Why did I put up with this? Why did I allow myself to be treated this way? And why did I treat him that way? Because I was just as angry. I mean, I can be a fucking hellcat, especially if you're not treating me properly. But going through and having, like, we spent Christmases abroad with his family, and there were some really great times that I was able to reclaim by going through and cleaning out my shit. So now that
closure.
Yeah. And I mean, 10 years down the road, I'm finally, whatever. And it wasn't like I didn't have closure. It was like I shut the door, I slammed the door, I walked away. You are no more. We didn't have contact. But it's nice now in retrospect to have more positive memories than what I allowed myself to acknowledge at the time. So, I mean, beyond closure, it's almost a healing element in that, because, like I'm saying, you lose your faith in humanity. Like it took a 14-year-old girl who took an interest in my son to restore my faith in humanity. It's like, well, maybe my faith shouldn't have wavered quite so much. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I remembered it to be, because those were momentary frustrations instead of a lifelong scenario.
Yeah.
And, in that particular situation, my friends were hard on him. Oh, my friends were fucking rough on him.
She said hard on him.
I know. But bless his heart, he was a soft-hearted ginger man, and I had some really catty gay friends who just gave him a fucking difficult way to go. And so...
Seems to be a theme in the news right now. I'm not sure what it is.
Really?
I'm joking.
Okay. So it couldn't have been pleasant for him, the things that would bring me joy, like being with my friends wasn't a happy time for him, and he was isolated from his friends because he had moved to Indiana from another state. So when he got here, he was completely isolated. It's just enlightening to go back and realize that he was struggling, I was struggling, and instead of working together, we took it out on each other. And so it gives me hope for the future. Like, with my situation with baby daddy right now, I could stay with him. I could stay with him indefinitely. I just wouldn't be wholly happy. And happiness is ultimately the goal. And I don't want it to wreck my children's lives. So I'm trying very hard to make sure that the kids are the number one priority, and if we need to cohabitate, we can continue to cohabitate, but for the sake of the kids, we have to go ahead with the annulment right now.
Yeah, I think, and happiness to me, happiness is like a temporary, fleeting thing. Like, I think...
No, I'm building it, goddammit, it will be mine.
To have a fully enriched life.
Yeah,
I think to have a fulfilling, enriching life, you've got to have that partner, and he's just not that partner, and you both recognize that. But
I fear for him because I know he won't get out there. He won't push beyond his boundaries, and he will sit alone and angry and fester.
Sometimes there are situations where things are really bleak, and you look at this person and you go, this person doesn't have this person doesn't have these skills, and then they get pushed. And there have been times in my life where you just get pushed, and you get fired, or you get divorced, or this happens, and you have these major life events, and you find yourself rising to the occasion and growing and doing things that you never thought possible.
Yeah, well, we're really good friends, so I hope to be a part of that for him. I hope to be able to push him in the right, or not the right, but in positive directions where he can broaden his horizons, because he and I have a great deal in common in that we're not social creatures. So I hope to be a positive influence in his life, even post-marriage, where I can help him, get in a direction to find a friend set, a social situation where he can find happiness, because my biggest fear is that I'll move on and I'll inevitably, probably quickly, find someone who will provide me some level of happiness, and I fear that he won't.
And if you'd like to fill out a resume, please
Yes.
send it to spangle@wearelibertarians.com where
Attach a headshot.
where I will choose a mate for Gena because
Salary history included.
Right. So, and then in return, all those who enter the contest will receive a free nude photo of Greg Lenz. So,
Yes.
all right. Well, we better start.
We
wrapping
should,
it up,
but
so.
you know what? I can't. If you made it this far into my therapy session, thanks so much for hanging out.
It's been a good day.
Greg, do you have any plans to go see a certain special somebody for the holidays?
Do I?
Yeah.
The non-existent one.
I already saw her.
Oh, you already saw her?
Mm-hmm.
Several of us do not believe she exists.
I think she exists. I believe him fully.
Cool either way.
I would like a photo documentation.
I bet you
realize
would.
this leaves him free of your sabotage, so
Right.
I'm not mad at him.
I would like photo documentation as well as DNA samples.
I have no desire to
You could
sample.
actually probably find one on this jacket if I were to give it over to you. But
Oh, CSI.
Oh my! This.
just a hair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
was thinking
that's what he
something-
meant.
Something
Uh-huh.
weird with your
It's
elbows.
not a blue dress.
A cigar?
Yeah.
Close, but no cigar.
All right, Gena,
Oh,
take us home.
take us home. Well, I guess be present in the moment if you're able to, and if you are lucky enough to become mindful of past moments, appreciate it, and find a way to constructively move forward with it. And that's really important as we come into the holidays this week, and be there with your kids and try to make sure that they're there with you. As I know in my family, once you open up that video game or you open up that immaculate toy, it's that kid and that toy for the rest of the day. But try to enrich your experience with your family and make sure that you appreciate being together, because so many of us don't get that opportunity often enough in this society. So love each other and give back if you are able. And I would say we'll do better next time, but we're gonna suck.
Say
Happy
goodnight.
holidays.
Say goodnight,
Happy
Gena.
holidays. Good night, Gena.